Right, good evening. I'll call this meeting here to order on May 11th, 2026 at 7 p.m. Mr. Kosher, could you please take attendance?
Johnson. Here. Olson.
Here.
Skelton.
Here.
Boss Ward.
Here.
Winiger.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. If you could please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, any visitors who wish to address the board may do so. We ask that you sign in when you enter the room and please list the topic. If you have not done so, please approach the podium and I do ask that you refrain from listing any student by name or any personnel by name. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board? As a reminder, there'll be no action taken this evening. Seeing none, I move on to our first agenda item A, Tanager Happening, Lenny Bilberg and Cammie Dibley for Transformation Ed.
Good evening. Thanks for inviting us. We have something to show you, Lenny. It just feels so natural in her hand. So this is it could be used at your track meets too, I suppose. It's a baton, and we made this before we went in February to visit our friends in Oulu, where cities and cultures come together. And then they brought it back. I'll show it to you. They brought it back to us this time. They said, well, now it's your turn. Yes, exactly. So just a little hint that we're also, it makes it really easy because we got stuck in Dallas on the way over. And if you are detained more than, how many hours is it? 4 hours? 6 hours. Mm-hmm. If your flight is delayed for more than 6 hours, the European Union is required to pay you, and we were on a Finnair flight, so we each have tickets, vouchers for €600 to go back. So there you go. And it's Finnair, so where else are we going to use it, Go
back.
Right. So, thank you for having us here. Thank you for listening to all that we have to say. We really intended to keep this brief, but it probably won't be because that's how we function. So we do have some slides to show you.
Yep.
Just starting first with a wrap up of this year, that just kind of the highlights and the order of the way we did things, and then we added a lot of things if you want to hear more from the last couple of years and kind of where we think we're going. So this year, Transform Ed, I guess, is the overbranching title from year to year, and we're starting to get people to use it. I know we kept changing our name, and then everybody would call it whatever they thought of, but Transform Ed is the big title, and then every year we have a smaller focus.
Theme, yeah.
Yep. This year was Leave Your Mark, and we used a design circle, and this is what we really want students and teachers to become very familiar with. I know they get this a lot in middle school when they have the exploratory class with Charlotte Krell. She teaches them, and so by the time kids get to the high school, this should be pretty familiar to them. It's very similar to the scientific method that you'll get in lots of different content areas as well. So this year, the idea was to benefit the community of Vermillion and help students find ownership in the community as well.
And then within this, we had two themes that you could choose. One was Create Vermillion, one was Solution Vermillion. And all of these themes actually they were driven mostly by the things the city has asked for. We want to become, and we are the city of murals, and they asked for some more mural ideas. We have some things that our students in our community have been begging for, all kinds of things. And I got to tell you, if they don't get a bowling alley soon, our students are going to lose their minds. I think there were at least 100 students with the idea that they wanted a new bowling alley. So that is something they really want, and a big push there.
The students have spoken.
And they also got to choose this time the size of their group, and within a little bit of boundaries, who they were going to work with. And it was really exciting. There were some fun things, and we just stayed in our building at the high school. We didn't transport over. And we had some really fun things happening within the school. I know as when we get to the design challenge, we'll kind of talk about our calendar, but one of the coolest things that Cami and I have discovered this year is, while this is stressful, where we deal with a lot of things, the people of Vermillion are so fantastic. The judges are fantastic. The people afterwards saying, oh, I love this idea. I'm taking it directly to the chamber. I'm doing all these things, and they want to come back, and that's what kind of rejuvenates us each year. And if I got to the job this last year to stand and visit with the judges on their way out, and that was the best job ever in the world, because they were so thrilled with our kids, learning to talk to them and opening up whole new ideas, but also telling the kids, well, that was kind of, you didn't really think about this path. And we want them, when we're thinking about the design circle, we want them to fail a little bit. We want them to see some of the challenges, and that is what the adults gave them. And we're going to show some pictures of the judges this year, and all you're going to see are grins. So it's going to really make you happy. But you can see on the screen now is actually the two paths they could take, and you name it, the idea was there. We had a new parking garage in downtown Vermillion. We had a skate park. We had, you name it, they had the ideas, and it was really fun to see them come to fruition. One of the third grade classrooms, they actually tied it to their reading curriculum, so each student actually did their own individual project, and they presented it, and one student only got to present once, and their teacher reached out to me, and right away another judge said, I'll go to the elementary school, I'll hear what they had to say, and that's one of the just coolest things I get the feedback for that, to hear those kind of things happening.
Right. You know, and I feel like it's probably always hardest for the teachers. You know, they're in the trenches. They have more management that day and throughout, and most of them don't get to have the experiences of hearing the judges or the experts as they walk out the door. You know, grinning from ear to ear. A few of them, I had some social media posts afterwards about how it was the best day of their year, and man, those are really good things to hear. So.
One of the other great things, actually, Jose Dominguez was a judge, and we kind of placed him towards infrastructure things. And I shouldn't say his name, but a fifth grade classroom, his class had all kinds of really fantastic ideas, but they didn't get to see Jose. So I actually messaged him, and he said right away, I'll go visit with the whole classroom. And he spent a whole afternoon with them going through their projects again. And then our kids feel heard. And that's what is really the kind of connection we want here. Plus, they get to meet a face in the community, and they recognize them. And that's been thrilling for us to see that kind of connection.
So, yep. Culmination, it was similar yet different. We've had it at the SCSE 2 years in a row now, and we think that is the right spot. It seems to work very well. This year we had all of the groups upstairs around the top. I know a number of you were there helping out, and it just seemed like it was the right setup. There were some issues with hearing with that many people. I think a little bit of echo, having the experts here and so on. But we would have been able to use the floor below too. We just had kind of shifted some things around. We've mentioned it, I know, to some of you already. But the Shane, what are the names?
Chad and Jacob.
Okay, I don't know where
Chad and
Shane.
Jacob at the SCSE, they're in charge of actually facilities there. And it's one of the coolest stories. When we went, because the USD was still hosting basketball, they said, if you don't have to be on the floor, could you please not? And so we said, sure, we can fix it. That's not a problem. But when we were visiting with them, we meet a couple times throughout the year to kind of strategize what we need. And the first thing they both said to us is, this is our favorite project of the year. You know, how often do you have guys who have to set up tables and take care of 1,700 people coming into their facility for free? How many times are you going to hear that? And Chad's wife actually teaches in Yankton, and he said, why don't you guys do something like this? This is so cool. You should come and see this. And so we know that here are two young guys in their 20s that were thrilled about this. You know we're doing something right. So that was such a cool thing for us, for them to say that.
We know that they have more prestigious people come in there. No, it just, I think, yes. I think it's it's a real compliment to how the students behave when they come, how there's just joy and people see it. So we made a quick list of pros and cons. I'm sure we forgot some. After, maybe a month or so afterwards, we had a Zoom, and Dr. Alvey said, let's meet soon, as quickly as we can, so we don't forget all of the things that we have heard and talked about. And there are some staff and student surveys that went out, especially at the middle school. They got a lot of responses. These were some of the things that kind of seemed to stick out. Please, Dr. Alvey, if there's some others that we forgot, that you remember, let us know. But pros, well, actually, I'll back it up just a little bit. Every year that we have done this was the third design project year, we have feedback, and we listen to the feedback from the students and the staff, and we try to make it a little better, make it easier to orchestrate, and make some of the changes to make it a better experience for everybody. This year we had heard start later, so we had bumped that up, farther, so it wasn't right as the school year started, and that makes a lot of sense. People getting to know their students first before they embark on something like this. Because of some budget issues, we decided we were going to keep them in their own schools. St. Agnes was part of this also, and they opted to stay in their school. Because of our close proximity, we could have walked back and forth to the high school. That wouldn't have been a problem, but they said, let's just work in our school this year. So some of the things that they liked, we started much later. We started second semester only. We got going in February, and we finished in March. The first year that we did this, it was started right away in September and ended in January. Last year it was, I think, October to March. So this was a very fast process, just the same design circle, just shrunk, and we did not expect full prototypes finished. We just wanted, the basic ideas and the outlines to talk about. Thank you for the schedule. Yeah. If we could go back to the pros and cons list. So people did like that it was shorter. However, on the flip side, people said, well, that was too short. So you can see kind of where, there are some difficulties here. Definitely the schedule was easier to manage when it was in our own buildings, period. I mean, I think everybody can see that. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the right decision every time, in my opinion. But yes, absolutely. More efficient, the flexibility for the teachers. The teachers, if they decide to work only in their own classroom, could do their meetings to work on it any time of the week. We just had asked for one per week. There are some grade levels at the elementary school that maybe all of third grade would work together. Well, then they could find something in their time frame that worked. High schoolers have the Tanager time on Tuesdays, but that's a pretty functional schedule for us too, and a good time for us to meet. Students enjoyed working with their own friend groups. They got to choose who they worked with. Some kids absolutely love that. And as you can imagine, some people worked better that way, and some people worked worse that way, depending on.
Yeah, one of the comments was from a lot of the younger kids, I miss my big friends. I miss them a lot. But even many of our high schoolers, they miss the youngers. And what's funny about it is they begrudgingly admitted that, but they really did miss it. And they missed we kind of had to push them to do it, but they miss it. And they don't know sometimes when we push, it's a good thing. And it also, one of the ultimate goals is to force yourself outside of your group to collaborate with other people. And that part is good. And it's good for us teachers as well. We're meeting people from other buildings that we would never interact with at all different levels. And so it's a good push for us as well. Many high school teachers collaborated. Some of the younger groups collaborated. But it really was much more open. And the funny part is most people said, well, we like being told what to do. So we have to find the balance with that to figure out how much, the give and take for those kind of things.
One thing that I had seniors this year, and at the high school you follow them through, so I've had the same group every year, but this year they were seniors, and I noticed with the seniors I couldn't quite come up with the right word, dedication to the younger members, or guilt if they skipped, maybe. I had more seniors that opted to not be present on some of these days than the years before. Is it senioritis? Maybe, but also it was only their buddy they were going to leave in the lurch, not the 7-year-olds. And I think that's significant. Really
one thing that I've noticed is in 2 cases, mixing the grades has brought autistic children out of their shell.
Yep. We have heard that from
But I
parents.
encourage you to keep
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 100% actually. We
Yeah.
are grabbed several times by parents of people on the spectrum, for sure, 100%. But so when we met with Dr. Elvey, one of the things is we have been kind of following our 5-year plan. We started with you guys a long time ago to go to Finland to learn some of their things. We took the bigger group. We came back. We have begun this process, and now it's really, we have lots of Finnish friends. This is really Vermillion's project. We have made it our own. It's different than what they do. They actually like that we can force the high school to do it as well, and it's because we're at the high school. They struggle getting high school teachers to buy in. And we're very lucky we have that, and they have talked about that quite a bit at their level. Up till grade 9, they got things really, really going there. But after that, they run into the teachers that are in their specialty that don't want to really branch out. So we have really made this our own. So, everybody says this is Finland. Well, not quite. It's really Vermillion that we have made it something that works for us, especially in our community.
Right.
But then we have some other dreams coming up as well, and to continue our 5-year plan. When we met with all of the principals, which was really, really great, we got to visit with all of the principals. One of the things we heard is that we want to continue this project. We heard that they want to continue the design challenge. And truthfully, USD lets us use it for free. We got the most glowing letter from Dr. Jestring. She wrote us the nicest letter about what she thinks about the design challenge. She had to miss. Actually, she would have been an expert for us this year, but she was in Washington, D.C., and I didn't know which one was more important. I kind of measuring that, but so we have USD's support, and that's a really cool thing. And we found that even our principals said they want to do it. So if that's, they have to deal with grumbling from others. And so that was a really fun thing for us to hear, in spite of all the other things we get on the backside as well.
Right. So we have referred to this 5-year plan a number of times. I started thinking, this is my 5-year plan here, and I started thinking, I'll just do these quick little bulleted points of all the things that we've done, and as you know, then they just kept going. So if you want to flip to the next one here, 22-23, that was the initial year that Lenny went crazy and signed us up for this, program, and then we were selected to go. So that was 23 was the first time we were there. And then when we came back and we met, and prior to going, they had said, okay, well, we'll help, finance this, the foundation and the school board, and said, what are you going to do for us? So here we go. 23-24 was our first design project. And that was the represented little things that the students made that could be memorabilia and so on for the town.
And just know that those tic-tac-toe boards are literally across the globe. Literally, they come and ask me regularly, where do I buy them? They sell them at the chamber, and they're going everywhere. And we find out more and more. We've given them away, but other people are now giving them away as well.
That's cool. Then Dr. Elvey came to us toward the end of the year and said, so is it possible? Can we get some people going back again? And we said, we'll try to make this work. So we had talked to the people who led the full STEAM that we had gone to in Oulu. They did a customized tour, and that's when we were able, very wonderful experience with some more teachers from the district, and then also we reached out to the ed department, and Dr. Schweinley was on board. She said, yep, we're doing this. So the ed school professors also were able to go with us, and it's an example of collaboration upon collaboration upon collaboration. Now these people, we know them by name. I feel a connection to the ed school that I haven't had since I got my master's there. It's now I know these people. This is something I'm not. I'm very willing to reach out when I need some help for things as well, and I hope they feel the same. So this was the group that went in May of 24. We went into schools, 3 different schools. So the first time that Lenny and I were there, it was 3 different schools, and then one of the schools in this particular trip was the OSYK, the school that is now visiting us regularly. They met us that day and they said, yeah, it just felt like a good fit. And so they are the ones that messaged us later and said, would you be interested in continuing this? So Yep, we can move on with the slides. Then we have 24-25 school year. This was the Envision Ed, the outdoor spaces. Dr. Elby had ideas about that as well. These are, some parts are finished, some are in progress. I actually overheard a conversation of some teachers the other day in the lounge talking about how they started using the one at the space at the high school. And yeah, you know, we could do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And that was a good feeling, just to listen in, and that's being discussed in positive terms, even though I think we have a few things we'd like to finish there yet. We also went then and spoke with Dr. Elvie and Kim Johnson at the Associated Principals Conference. Did I forget part of that title? There we go, yep, sorry about that. Oh, well. And that was a fun experience. Talked to some different principals and superintendents from the area, and the superintendent asked for our materials, and we shared it, and so hopefully that's being spread around the state. Then Lenny and I had gone. She went along with me. It was the ACTFL foreign language conference, but talked about using kind of some of these Finnish concepts in the classroom. We talked about that first, and then some of the things that we had each done in our classrooms, and that was a very good experience. That was in Kansas City. And then, of course, we had our first visit from the Oulun Suomalaisen, you get the rest of it, Lenny.
Lukio means school, I got that.
We know about 5 words in Finnish now. But Eve was the one that we met the first time we were there, and she's the one who reached out to us. And then they applied for a grant from the U.S. Embassy in the Finnish government, and they were able to renew that. The first theme was focusing on Indigenous peoples, which was something that we had already kind of thought about too. It was a really good fit, and we took them out to the Black Hills, and we met some local people at the university, and 2 of the students that had come had connections to the Indigenous people the Sami people in Finland also. And so that was a really nice cultural exchange for them. Well, there's some Envision Ed ones, out of order just a little bit. Oh, one thing I was going to say about that middle picture, I am with the teachers that I worked with. This was not this school year, but last school year. And this was when we still had, I guess, quote, forced the different grade levels together. What I like about that picture is those are teachers I had never worked with before either. I had never known some of their names. I had heard their names. I didn't know what their faces looked like, or who, I'd see the face and name and not know them. I think the collaboration, that right there is significant too. I think for years, and this was probably a long time ago since I've been teaching a long time, but that was something when the people, what was that?
Austin Jolly and that whole.
Yes, exactly. And when people would come in for accreditation, that was always something that we got dinged on as a district. Well, you've got these pods and there's no working together. And I think that is improving, so. Yep, you can go ahead. And this was when they were visiting last year. We took them out and saw the Sundance ceremony, which was incredible. I had never seen that in my entire life, so. And then we are on to the 25-26 school year, of course, the Leave Your Mark, Create Our Solution Vermillion. And then the visit, of course. Did I forget our visit?
Oh, yes. Well, it's coming up, actually,
Okay.
so we'll talk about that. But we did go to Finland in February, but we'll come to that next. But in regard to what we're doing at our school, Eve and Mina, the 2 teachers, came with 3 young students this year, some high school students, and we had 3 host families, and Cami hosted Eve, and actually Gretchen Burbach hosted Mina, and it was really, really a wonderful experience. We just did a local cultural tour this time, so they stayed around, and we have some pictures coming up, but they got to go on a private tour of Spirit Mound, a private tour of the Wilson homestead. They got to have a beautiful experience here that they absolutely loved. And now that they're home, they just got home, they were just here. Everything they've been posting from their school, from everything, is how Vermillion feels like home. And how because they went to New York City after this and did a special visit at Columbia, but Vermillion feels like home. And over again, that's what their posts are, that they loved it here, they loved the people, that everybody talks to them, and they enjoyed really everything about it, in spite of being jet lagged and all of those things. So it was a really great visit, and we finished it off. We did do a Missouri River Plunge.
It's called the Transatlantic Cold Plunge Crew now. And you may certainly,
And you can join.
at any
You can
point in
join.
time.
So we did make that. But on to next year. As always, at the end of the year, we kind of get our group together and see what people are thinking. But we also want to say, what do we need in Vermillion? What should our theme be in 2025, 2026? Because each of our ideas, we've always kind of felt a spark towards them, and now we want to say, what are other people thinking? The Idea Fest this year, we called it Idea Fest instead of Design Challenge. There were some fantastic ideas, really outside the box thinking. Yeah, there were some really not so great ideas as well, but that's okay. They had to present those to a judge and then be a little embarrassed about that, and that's okay. And our kids need to understand, I can take it serious or I can't. But so we're looking for ideas if you guys know, or something we're missing, something you've been just thinking about and have a big dream. We like to say we can make it happen. So, but then coming up, we did want to talk about our visit just recently to Finland, and we have some pictures about that. And we were super, super, super lucky to have Dr. Jackie Wilbur join us again this year, and Dana from Duck and Cat. He was on a food tour, and we were on an educational tour. But he was a former English teacher actually as well, and so he toured with us in all the schools, and we did get to see a really wonderful experience with them as well-spoken educators that live kind of a different life than us outside the classroom. But on the screen now you can see some of the judges and some of the joy. So if you want to scroll through some of these pictures, they really are fantastic. If you look at what's going to be happening, you look at the kids and how serious they're taking it, how the judges are really trying to kind of grasp what's going on. And I just love their faces. If you see high schoolers really paying attention like that, you've hit your mark.
And I love watching the faces of the experts. I mean, look at how intent they are and how they're giving so much to those students. Oh, and that one too. You might recognize somebody. He's doing all right too, yeah.
So then when we were in Finland this year, they asked us specifically to come this particular week because Oulu this whole year is celebrated as the European Cultural Capital, but this particular week they were having a number of events with their school. So one of the days I called it, this is my term, the day of the dance, but it was the neatest thing. The high school walked, like literally what it would be from our high school to walk all the way to the elementary. The kids on their own walked across town in the winter, okay, in February, to show up for the day of the dance. They didn't take attendance, but the kids were there. It was the neatest experience, and they had a local professional folk dancer that performed and taught them 4 dances, and we got to participate as well. And, Cammie is a dancer. I'm not, but I learned some folk dance, and it was a really great experience. And to see every principal participated, every teacher participated. The kids, maybe they weren't necessarily comfortable, but all of a sudden they went all in, and to see that shift because the teachers were showing joy, then the kids jumped in as well.
There were some teachers that were a little overly confident in their abilities as well, but they just had a blast. So.
And then one of the next things it was actually the day before, we got to see actually a folk concert where they played 4 different Sami and Northern Lapland tribes music, and I think it even surprised the school. These musicians were some of the best I've ever heard, playing instruments that they built themselves from, made out of elk horns, or not elk horns, it would be reindeer horns, and you name it, and they made them, and it was so amazing. In fact, I have to tell Chef Dana's story. We were listening to the concert at 10 in the morning. It was actually the first day we arrived because we were a day late because of our flight issues, and we're listening to this concert, and all of a sudden we look over.
We hear the sniffing.
And they're going, and everybody next to us they're just crying, like their eyes are whatever, and
They're so moved by this music, we couldn't even understand the words. It wasn't even finished. I don't know what it was.
And so we stood up after the concert, and we're like, what was going on? And they both said, I wasn't ready for this many emotions by 10 a.m.
So if you know Dana, that he was the one who said that, so just envision that.
So a really great experience there. And we do have some pictures coming up. We did, this is actually a kind of a representation of our stay. We did do the polar plunge, and yes, that's ice. We did jump in. If you zoomed in on Cami, she's actually grinning, so it's actually quite a good photo. And one of the purposes we got our crazy idea actually happened from the upper right-hand picture. Those were, that was a design of some fourth grade boys, and this is what really drove us from the beginning and sparked all of our ideas. They got to design this for people to go to during the cultural fest. Of course, the boys had it in solid gold.
And their original idea.
And it was going to be on top of a mountain, but
There are no mountains.
they got to work with the actual builders of this and put it together, these fourth grade boys, and it was really cool. So we were so happy we got to go to the letters and take some pictures. The coldest it was when we were there, the first day was about 8 degrees. And then it warmed up each day as we were there. I think it finished off with 30 on our last day. And lots of snow. We got to have lots of snow. But you can see then we were so lucky. Jackie, through USD and the Vermillion Schools Group, brought the blanket you guys can see, and they gifted the school a blanket from us. And they were literally, again, crying because it was so exciting. And then the folk music on the bottom right. And then because we did have to spend an extra 16 hours in Helsinki, you do get a picture of the Helsinki Cathedral because we had to wait, and we decided to go downtown since we were sitting in Helsinki airport all day. But
So, and just a few pictures that, we had the most wonderful day. We met Jeffrey at Spirit Mound, and Grace Freeman, if you know who she is. And then she brought some of her friends, and we got the local sort of, tour of Spirit Mound. They talked about the grasses and the natural habitats. And then Grace and her husband Harry are so generous. They said, why don't you come back to our house? We'll make you some rhubarb bars and serve you some tea. When we got up there was an entire buffet set up for us. Harry had made chicken kebabs, and we had salmon soup and everything you can think of. And these girls and the teachers, they were just overwhelmed by this generosity. They said they just couldn't believe it. And it was a wonderful culture experience, even for me. I had not been part of it. I had called Joy Moore, if you know. She has been a law professor. Her husband, Tyler, works at the law school, and she does some poetry. She has 2 books of local poetry, and we invited her to come out. She gave everybody one of her books, and it was just a really, really nice experience. So we felt fortunate to be part of it.
We can't really say it enough how really the Vermillion community has embraced these ideas. It truly is a gift that we have a school board that has supported us, but a community that they're begging for opportunities to do it again. And we never expected it to go that well in regard to that. And I actually like having that job of being in charge of finding judges. I really do, because it's such a great opportunity to visit with people. It actually opened up some avenues. We're headed to Germany with students this summer, and they said, what help do you need here? And it helped us kind of close the gap on our funding there. And it really is a wonderful place. People just show up and want to help out. So
but
we're
probably
lucky.
shouldn't schedule it over USD spring break next time.
Yeah, that is true.
Limited a few of our expert panel that said, oh, please ask me next year, but I'm out of town. So.
Yeah. But any questions that you guys have for us, we know we covered a lot and we do talk a lot, but
I could never share this with Bob. Do you come over to the house?
Seriously? If you serve us rhubarb bars and tea, we'll be there. Yep.
She's got some Sonic here.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
yeah. But anything else, you guys?
I guess I have a couple comments about the Idea Fest. So I was proud to be one of the experts there. It was a great experience. I thought the students all did a great job. I felt it was really well done, the event in general. And you were talking about the location. I really, I didn't have any frame of reference. This was my first year. I liked it on the concourse. It's like kind of only one dimension of movement, that you're not like, no one was wandering around in looking behind them, it's just kind of move in one direction, and I thought that really helped the traffic
Good,
flow.
thank you.
Went really well.
And we had some, a few of the administrators positioned strategically by exit doors, and, and that was perfect, because we needed that. And if they would wander a little too close, it'd say, hey, why'd you go this way? So,
But the other really cool thing we've discovered is, the high schoolers drive themselves, which we're thrilled about, and they show up. There really isn't an attendance because it is, and they show up. And that's the thing that, even though they might grumble, they think this is important. And when you see some of those senior boys that showing up, you're realizing that, okay, we are on the right path. And I got to grab kids on their way out, and I made them present to me on their way out, and slowed them down, but they were ready. And that's a cool thing. In just really 4 weeks, they were able to accomplish some great ideas. And there is a mural hope the chamber is looking at, for sure, one idea, maybe 2 ideas that came from it. So we're hoping that they take it to the next step and go from there.
Did you bring like 10, 20 ideas to the chamber then at all? Like, did you formally give them a packet? Or
They
not yet?
requested certain ones, and it was because Patty Rosdale was part of, we had her on that section, we kind of broke off the judges into more of their expertise areas, and she literally flagged them and said, you're coming, and which is great. But then also, just some of the ideas when the city officials that were working, for sure, Mayor Cole and Jose was like, I think we need a bowling alley. And it was good because they're hearing from the kids, and they are hearing that's where they go. They drive to Yankton and go bowling, It's an opportunity right there that the kids are doing it regularly. They could, drive less.
right.
So,
Dr. Elver, there's that annex we're talking about between the high school. It's probably a nice long area that could be 4 or 5 lanes. So
It's fine.
Love it.
That's the right space.
Love it.
it's fine.
We have our budget proposal for the year here coming up, so we'll see.
Just
where
write that one in.
Revenue source for that.
Well, there you go.
Exactly.
I guess just to kind of wrap up. Sorry, I got the wrong one there. Sorry, just to wrap up, well, first of all, thanks, Cammie and Lenny for their leadership, but there's a whole committee that they've created with the principals in each building, and, this doesn't just fall together. It takes a lot of work from these folks to make sure it happens, but each time that we do this, we learn a couple new things, which is important. 2, we create and reinforce those relationships, as you mentioned several times in here. But 3, some of the most fun I had was, 2 years in a row, I've met with the same staff from Olu coming to our school with kids, and to interview kids from their communities and their teachers and talk about the same similarities and kid issues, social media issues, cell phone issues, whatever it is. There's a lot of really neat things that we've had conversations about, which we've taken a few nuggets here and there and offered a few nuggets back. So that's what this is about, is being able to create opportunities for a unique educational experience. So thanks to the board and our community for supporting it. So thank you guys for helping.
Thank you. I suppose we do need that back?
Oh, the baton.
Okay, I want to see a proper handoff here. Well, that was not it. Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead then, get on along with our agenda here. We have to approve our agenda and our conflict disclosures. So for item A, agenda changes, Dr. Elvey.
There are not.
Wonderful. I would take that a motion to approve the agenda. First by Mark. Second by Ryan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Pull same sign. Motion passes. Next up here, we have our indication of conflict of interest per South Dakota Codified Law 3-23. This is Rachel and I have none.
This is Carol, and I have none.
This is Jake, and I have none.
Mark, and I have none.
This is Ryan, and I have none.
Wonderful. We'll move on here to our consent agenda. We have approval of our minutes, resignations, new hires, open enrollments, and bills. First up here, we have our minutes from April 13th. Resignations, Madison Rohde, sped aide, John Dimmick, 8th grade, English. How many years was Mr. Dimmick here?
I think it's 18.
18, okay. Congratulations on your retirement. Joey Nelson, assistant football, Tessa Dooley, sped aide. New hires, Jerry Bartles, assistant boys and girls tennis, Aubrey Job, assistant high school vocal music, Christian Swenson, special ed teacher, Mark Netsky, summer custodian, Jasmine Stewart, summer custodian, Tegan Wormsped, Grace Voss, Carly Maxwell, Tyan Taggart, all sped aides, Loretta Jorgensen, behavior room aide, Orin Kamikos, 5th grade, Monica Stratmeyer, 8th grade English. Would anybody like anything pulled from the consent agenda? If not, I would take a motion to approve.
So moved.
First by Carol. Second by Jacob. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We are not in need of any unfinished business, so we'll be moving on to new business. There are quite a few items here this evening, A through N. I'm looking at it. We might be able to take it as one motion, but we'll kind of go as we can here. Our first approval is approval of a staff transfer request. Mrs. Huska.
Yes, she was, Sue's been working now for us for 3 years, and she would like to move to the lead nurse position that Amy Askew vacated this month, so we would recommend that you allow that.
Wonderful, thank you, Sue. Next up here, we have approval of our high school JAG program trust and agency account.
Similar to our high school Ed Rising and Science Olympiad groups that have come before you earlier this year, the JAG program is also going to be doing a little bit of fundraising. This program is a little bit different in that they have a couple of different grants that pay for most of what they do, but they do have a handful of things outside of that they want to raise some funds for, and then those funds will be placed in that account. We've had the discussion, and they can abide by all of the requirements for having that trust and agency, so we recommend approval tonight.
I saw they kicked off a bake school. Was it last week when we were there, Ryan?
Yep.
All right, then next up here, item C, we have approval of some surplus items. Looks like Ashley Jacobs has some Vizio TV, Dells, and some various monitors. Any questions on those surplus items? Then we have some elementary reading materials.
Actually, it's
right?
high school intro to business, some business.
Oh, getting Fs.
Yep.
There you go,
So,
sorry.
and both of the technology and the booklets, or the
Zero.
curriculum are at 0 values, so.
Wonderful. Next up here, then, we have approval of our food service management contract renewal with Lunchtime Solutions. Mr. Kosher.
Yes, this would be the second renewal. We had our original contract a couple years ago, and then we can have 4 renewals of that contract. This would be for renewal number 2. The contract does specify that allows that CPI increases for the pricing, which based on the US data that we have used, it's 3.9%. So the price that LSI charges the Vermillion School District will go up by 3.9% for those meals.
Can you help us, Kevin, with the new pricing then? So is it?
Yep, that is the next item there for, you're talking the student meal pricing?
I got it.
Yep, there you go.
Thanks. Any questions on the contract? If not, we'll talk about the meal pricing, which is probably what most of us are looking at.
Yep, the proposed meal prices that we discussed with the Finance Committee last week would be moving the breakfast up 10 cents and all lunches up by 20 cents. Really, the need for this is to keep pace with the increased cost that the district is charged for the price increases. Again, based on inflationary numbers, this is, we think, pretty reasonable. It doesn't cut into any sort of deficit it just kind of continues to keep pace. We do still have a healthy food service fund balance, so that is why we are recommending the 10 cent and the 20 cent increases rather than something more significant than that.
And just,
the prices would be $2.10 for breakfast, $3.55 for elementary lunch, $3.70 for middle school lunch, and $3.75 for high school lunch.
then just as we're looking at our packet, I know I asked this in our meeting, the contract price is $5.24 for lunch, but it's all the different federal subsidies that
Correct,
we get
yep.
it to that $3 and that 70 cents.
Yes, we do get reimbursements, of course, for free meals, anybody who qualifies for the free meal program and the reduced price program as well. But then we also get some reimbursement for any paid lunches as well. So they also subsidize those lunches there as well. So that's why there can be such a wide gap in between what we're paying for those meals and what we're actually charging.
Yeah, it's nice not to see that $5.24. It's better to see that $3.
Just for just a point of interest, I received a call from a superintendent in the northern part of the state who was looking to, they're going out to food service RFPs, and their leading contender is Lunchtime Solutions, and so they were asking about pricing and all the things that went along with our proposals, and they're paying over $4 for lunch already. So they're hoping to see some management changes and some things that LSI can bring to the table that will help them manage that differently, hopefully in the future. So it's different everywhere in the state that you ask, so.
Especially with all the change in the requirements, it's really nice to have that team
Absolutely, it
be
helps.
experts at that. So, any questions on Lunchtime Solutions?
I'll just say I appreciate our partnership with their company and their program, and I also appreciate that, I know in the past, we look at what the rates are for our other peer districts, and so thank you for the work that goes into that.
Wonderful, then. Next up here, we'll move on to the approval of the South Dakota Comprehensive Plan for 26-27.
That was in your Google Drive, but if you're ever interested, this is just a document that Mrs. Olofsson puts together to meet all of our requirements for IDEA and special services. So she signs off on that, as do I, and then we send that into the feds as our agreement to how we're going to perform the services that we get our federal dollars for.
All right. Next up, then, we have approval of the South Dakota High School Association election ballot and resolutions. Looks like there's an election, and then there are 3 amendments here that we need to make a decision on. Do you want to lead us through those? Dr.
Absolutely,
Alvey?
yes. The election is pretty easy. They have representatives from principals and superintendents and other members of their board. This year, they happen to have a superintendent vacancy, and only one person was interested in the position, so our recommendation would be Jeff Costers from Frederick Area School. The first amendment was basically to amend part of Chapter 1, subdivision there, and that's a clarification for the 8th semester rule for high school sports at high school and 4 semesters in middle school. So what that means was there was some gray area that if a student was participating, once you start that clock in middle school, you're eligible as a 7th grader for high school gymnastics or golf or things like that. So they had to clarify this amendment from last year to change some language there. And it was basically just a clarification on the high school eligibility so that how it would look going from middle school to high school. So our recommendation would be follow their recommendation with a yes vote. Amendment number 2. And that was basically, again, just an amendment to clarify the transfer students when a high school is closing. There's a few incidences in the state where a community might be choosing to close a high school but keep a elementary or middle school program. Well, what was the eligibility of those high school students was a kind of a gray area. So they clarified that if your high school is closing, you could transfer at the end of the year you're closing. So in case that would ever happen in a small rural district someplace, they would now have a amendment to follow that. So our recommendation would be a yes vote on Amendment 2. And finally, Amendment 3, that was a clarification for what constitutes graduation from which programs. Some students that participate in high school activities might be graduating from another accredited school outside of their public school. Instead of Vermillion, it could be an accredited online academy or school. As you can imagine, these days, there's a lot of names and a lot of brands out there that people can get their educational needs met. And so they're constantly trying to have to revise this to make sure that they're being fair to all students. So they outline how and what programs that students must participate and graduate from to be eligible. So I would recommend, again, a yes vote on Amendment 3 for clarification.
Wonderful. Any questions on these ballot changes? All right, we'll fill out those documents here at the end with those suggestions. Next up here, then, we have our summer employment agreement.
This is, I'm sorry, got my
think it's
notes
this
mixed
one,
up here a little bit.
Right, is this? Yep, that's the one first.
Yep, okay. Sorry, Kevin, if you want.
We've got our summer school program that we have for our special education program. We propose a certain budget based on the number of hours that are expected and the students that we expect to participate in the program. It's a little bit of a guessing game as to who will all be there and for how many hours, but we set this number as one not to exceed. So based on this, we've got a budget of just under $55,000 there. We set that as not to exceed. Last year, we came in quite a bit lower than that. It was a little bit under 30,000. We expect we'd be a little bit higher than that this year, but this sets forward the hourly rate for all of those individuals that would be working there in that program as well.
And looking ahead to our next agenda item, right, that summer school for the middle school is not part of this proposed 54,000.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So then we can move on if there's not any questions about the large budget, we can move on to the middle school summer school that Ms. Sanderson has been talking with us
Yes.
about.
Just a clarification, on the one previous to that, that's our birth to 3 and all of our special services, education services. Those are students that on their IEP requires that they receive year-round schooling. So it's not necessarily because of a need of or an attendance issue. These are students that, because of the needs on their IEP, meet in that category. The following one would be a recommendation to add summer school experience to our Vermillion Middle School. As was stated, Mrs. Sanderson has come for the last couple months and shared what we would like to do at the middle school would be to follow a similar plan that we have at the high school. In the summer, we offer some credit recovery for students and an opportunity to keep up with their studies so that they could stay in their graduating cohort. We would like to transition that down for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade for the exact same reason. We have students that have missed a large amount of school and maybe has impacted their educational progress, and this is an opportunity to gain the skills necessary to move forward. For several years now, we've had some concerns brought to us from our instructors at the middle school that said, we've had students that have been put into the next grade level that did not have the skills to really do the work and to transition successfully to the next grade level. And they've experienced frustration and failure and been maybe not the academic, I guess, the academic experience we would hope for them. And teachers have also had to change their instruction or slow down the instruction for all students as they're trying to keep students afloat. So this year we would propose that we would offer a summer school experience at the middle school that would start about May 26th and go through June 26th. This is the same calendar as the high school. Students would be invited into the program based on missing a significant number of days of school. We're talking probably 20 or more, and or failing 1 or 2 core subjects. And we would take our at-risk students that would benefit from this program, and we would require their attendance at this summer school experience to give them the very basic needs to move forward and be successful the next year, with obvious hopes that that would get contagious and they would come into the next grade level more successful, ready to learn, and then they would catch fire with this process, and maybe it'd be a one-time hiccup for their educational career. So we would ask the board for a $6,000 investment for hiring 2 teachers to be there for those 4 hours for those 20 days of summer school experience for a targeted group of students. Mrs. Sanderson and her group of teachers are working on that group of kids at this point. It could be anywhere between 10 and 20 students throughout that time. Once the student has mastered those concepts that are required, they could be gone. So we might have a student that only has to come to half as many of those days because they've accomplished the task that they needed to do. Others will be asked to stay the full time. So we're asking the board's permission to move forward, asking for about a $6,000 investment to pay our staff to do this. And then probably as important will be to be supportive of the fact that if students don't attend this, we will have consequences for them in the fall, which would be we won't promote them to the next grade level. If they have been offered the opportunity to improve their situation and refuse to do it or don't show up, then we will be prepared to retain them in that grade level at which they had failed. So that's not something that we would take lightly and would not be hoping to use, but we do need to know that that is a possibility when you offer a program in the summer. So thank you for your attention with that. Any questions I can help with?
I believe some of these families are aware that this is a possibility
Oh,
coming up, as she's
yeah.
been talking about that for.
Yeah,
previous,
absolutely,
right?
great, yeah.
This
It's
isn't,
been-
this isn't going to be a shock to somebody.
Right, won't
with
be a
this
shock.
request coming up.
There's been personal meetings with those folks, with Mrs. Sanderson, her teachers. In fact, some of the students, I think probably are working their way off of the list
Yeah.
because they started to see that this was a real possibility and that she was serious and the teachers were serious that this was gonna happen this year. And so I think some of the kids have really picked up their game and made some nice improvements at the end of the last 4 weeks here.
And we talk about just overall attendance, but the 20 days or more, what are some of the high numbers you're seeing? I mean, I've heard around in the 40s.
Yeah, we
Is that
have.
correct?
Yeah, we have students that have anywhere between 0 days and 60 to
kinda
70
nice.
days of school missed. And now, like Mrs. Sanderson said before, there are some that have absolute legitimate reasons that they've been ill or other requirements that kept them out of school. Those kids don't fall into this program. These are students that have a different reason to be involved in this summer school experience.
Can you talk a little bit about Edgenuity?
Oh, yeah. Edgenuity is the software platform that we use at the high school for credit recovery. So if I were to fail my freshman English class, for example, Jasmine Heisinger and the teachers, they can put together a special program for me designed on all the lessons in South Dakota standards that would be missed as a freshman English course. Then I would go to her room. I can do it during school year, which during some of our study halls, kids do that. And I can take that course and I just basically go through, and let's say it was in English, it gives me a lesson, I watch a video, it gives me the desired notes that I'm supposed to have, it asks me to apply some sort of skill, and then it gives me a quiz. And it does that for each of the standards. So there might be 40 or 50 lessons that I need that concept retaught. It also allows us to shrink and mold that to each kid's personal learning plan. At the middle school, we won't ask kids to go through 60 lessons of English. What they will do is go, Mr. Dimmick, for example, as 8th grade will say, these 10 lessons were the most important thing out of my 8th grade English class. And then we would gear Edgenuity's lesson planning to those 10 concepts. And you can imagine the same with math, the same with science, or whatever it is. And we're really most interested in math, science, and language. We're not interested in social studies and some of our other non-core areas. We want kids to learn those things. So once those kids have signed in and used that, we hope that we'll have a content expert. 1 week it might be a math teacher, the next week would be a language teacher that would be the supervisor. So if I'm stuck and don't understand something, we'll have an instructor on hand to help get through that.
And the structure of that platform gives us the flexibility of, kind of determining the roster.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. That's good
Uh,
clarification.
A little more last minute, or, and
Yes.
being able to accommodate their needs with the 2 staff.
Correct, correct. And Mrs. Heisinger, our credit recovery teacher at the high school, is meeting next week with the instructors from the middle school and Mrs. Sanderson to say, these 12 kids will be in the program. What does it look like for the 3 7th grade kids in math, the 4 8th grade kids in English, the 3 6th grade kids in reading? What will Edgenuity look like for them? Yep. Good question. Thank you.
And since it's like 20 days away, she has some teachers that are eager to get their application into us.
Yep. As far as I know, we have 2 that have already volunteered.
Okay.
Yep.
And so we don't have to worry about timing of approval, since we don't have our next school board. You'll be
Right.
able to do
Yeah,
everything you
yeah.
need to get them going.
Yep.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Right. Next up here, we have approval of additional staff in-service training called BAR.
Yes.
Is that how you say it, or BUR?
BAR. Yep. BAR stands for Building Assets and Reducing Risks.
Couldn't have guessed that.
Yes.
So,
And So before you, there was a lengthy kind of a description of what BAR is. And BAR is really an educational model that was, I'll give you the short version, it was developed by a counselor in the late 90s in Minnesota because it was in a failing school. And she wrote a grant for the U.S. Department of Education to try to start connecting with kids and getting kids more engaged. They found out attendance was poor, engagement was low, kids were failing, they weren't coming to school, graduation rates were suffering, standardized test scores were low. And so she started this with a small school in Minnesota. It went from Minnesota to California, and then Minnesota, California to Texas, and now there's over 210,000 kids across the nation that are part of this. We were invited to be a part of the program, or considered to be a part of the program, when we fortunately, I was at a conference where I ran into the former Department of Education, Secretary of Education, Director for South Dakota, and we were talking at the same meeting about, I was there to get some information about how to improve engagement and attendance rates and things like that, and she said, you should really check into this BAR group. There's a lot to it. So we hooked up and started to have a conversation, but it was very spendy. To bring the model to your school is $80,000 a school per year. And it requires you to do some very intensive before-school training with your staff. It requires during the school year training. It requires your staff to do some extra visits and things about kids. But what it does do, it falls very neatly into our MTSS programming, our multi-level tiers of support that you heard Mr. Fry and others talk about in the past, where we intentionally talk about kids and what's causing them to maybe struggle and things like this. So we were invited to participate with the BAR group this spring and send 3 administrators to a national conference paid for by the state of South Dakota, because we were a targeted assistance school for our high school and our elementary last year. And so they invited us and another school and district in the state to go take a look. And once we got there, our principals became instantly engaged with this, became excited about what they were hearing from these schools across the nation, schools similar in size of us, smaller and larger. Regionally, they're in Minnesota and North Dakota now. So it's not just big states in urban settings or rural states with small populations. North Dakota's a lot, and Minnesota are a lot like South Dakota. So we found some really good niches there and places that we could talk to about what to see there. When we got back from BAR, we met with the Department of Education. In fact, Mr. Kosher and I just met with them again today, which caused our proposal to change a little bit for this evening. Because what the state of South Dakota was prepared to do was to pay for our middle school, or excuse me, our elementary school and our high school to become BAR schools for 3 years at $80,000 each for the entire 3-year program. And they would do that because we're on targeted school improvement, and so this would fit neatly into dollars that they would invest in initiatives that were going to be new and exciting to drive instruction. We found out today that in meetings with last week, we were trying to find out if we could get some professional development dollars from them. We talked about adding the middle school. The middle school really wasn't on the radar because they didn't fit the qualifications. Well, they went back to work, and today they called us and said, we've got 2 proposals for you. One would be to just do elementary, middle school, and then we'll pay for some professional development outside of school time for your staff, or we'll put the middle school in the mix with the high school and the elementary school. And that was the missing link for us, because we said, how are we going to ensure the middle school gets the same quality instruction that the elementary and high school are getting? We have basically been offered a 3-year grant, the only school in South Dakota to receive this, for $240,000 a year for 3 years to invest in BAR, to come to Vermillion and work strictly with our kids and our staff. And so tonight we're asking for permission to continue forward with that. However, what we do need is an additional day of in-service for our staff this fall, because BAR needs a minimum of 2 for them, and we have 3 at the beginning, 2 which are days that we do things with our staff on whatever training we need, and then the 3rd is the orientation day. So what we would propose is that if the school district were so inclined, you would offer us a 3rd PD day for our staff for approximately $15,000 for that day, to bring them in and let them get chances to work in their classrooms. Because if we use 2 full days to do bar training, we won't be giving our staff much time to work in their classrooms. And as you know, we need to be ready when kids come the following week. So the investment we're asking from the district is permission to go forward with bar, and secondly, to get an extra in-service day paid for by the district so that we could get the teachers an opportunity to be back together and work in their rooms. So I know that was a mad dash. What we're hoping to see, what makes bar different? Bar is really, what kind of sold me is, when I was talking to the folks, was that most of the time in education, unfortunately, we look at an outcome and say, how come our math scores aren't very good? How come our reading scores aren't very good? Well, we better change the curriculum. Let's just change the curriculum. That will solve the problem. And generally, that might be helpful in some ways, but that's not always the problem. And so what BAR does is it causes intentional thoughtfulness with the teachers. It brings teachers together, and it asks them to create relationships with kids, meet intentionally on every kid in the building, your lowest functioning kids and your highest flyers. Don't let those kids that aren't on your radar slip through the cracks because they seem like a good student and you don't talk about them because you're concentrating on the lower functioning students. So intentionally meeting and visiting about every student in your buildings with a team of instructors to talk about what's driving those kids. So once you've done that, pretty soon student engagement starts to pick up on this. If you can see a continuum here, pretty soon the teachers are working together, they're engaged, they're getting to know kids, and kids are getting a sense of belonging. Next phase, kids are starting to feel this sense of belonging in their school. They know people care about them, they know people are talking about them, and deep down they're starting to feel a little bit more connection to the school. By the third block of this continuum, pretty soon kids' engagement changes and they start to become a little more engaged in school. Well, I'm seeing a little success, so I want to come to school. Fourth block, my attendance changes. So now I'm in school a little bit more. My engagement continues to be good. My teachers are still talking about me and helping me to be successful, or helping me working with my parents to maybe change some things I need to change. And now I'm in school more. My engagement's better. My attendance is better. The fourth block of this continuum is suddenly I'm starting to be successful in school. And then by the fifth continuum, the outcome has changed. Our scores get better. Attendance rates are better. We report to the state that smarter balance scores are better. We see graduation rates increase. So their model is really just creating an atmosphere, a climate that kids thrive in. And it's not about curriculum. Curriculum is important. However, it's about teachers and the relationships and the climate that we create that makes the difference. And so BAR is going to come for 3 years and teach us that and make us understand that relationship and how it fits into what we're already doing. We do pieces of this all over our schedule. They're going to make us do it together, and they're going to ask us to do it for all students, not just our lowest students. And so it will be about things that teachers do and just making it intentional. So our principals are very excited about the fact that this isn't just another program we're throwing on people. This is a change. This is a cultural change. This is an invite to do things differently with the results that will hopefully speak for themselves. And the BAR literature that I gave you is published literature that shows documented improvements in all 3 areas that I mentioned: academics, engagement, attendance. So we're excited to be a part of it. Glad to be the only state or school in the state of South Dakota that will be doing so. We're excited to see at the end of 3 years where we're at and if it's made the impact that we really hope it does. But so tonight I'm asking for a lot, for permission, but also some dollars to move forward with it. And then, of course, we'll keep you posted along the way.
So this PD, is this every year then, at the beginning of the year? So it
Good. Oh.
carries through the 3 years?
Great
So-
question. The first year, Ms. Kosher, you can help me if you remember hearing this anywhere. First year is 2 days before school, 4 days within school, and then there's an on-call basis that we do. So it's a pretty regular, rigorous meeting schedule. Second year, I think it's 1 day before school, and then 2 visits within the school year, and then Zoom visits. By year 3, they just visit the school. They don't have anything else before school. They're always on invite. You can bring them in if you need to. But it wouldn't be something that we would ask for more days. And knowing now next year that we would want to spend one of our 2 professional days on BAR, we would just rearrange our schedule to accomplish that. we're a little late in the game, because we had settled on a calendar back in January, when I didn't even know that we were having this conversation with Bar in January. This has kind of come up since then, so, anyway, yeah, so a long answer is we shouldn't need any more days added to the calendar next year.
Well, I think for a $700,000+ grant, basically over 3 years of $15,000, if we spread it over 3 years, it's a good investment, just like summer school is a good investment.
I agree. We're excited, and our principals that we sent Mr. Jacobs, Mrs. Peterson, and Mr. Fry to that conference, along with 2 Department of Education folks from Pierre. And I got a text from Mr. Fry at the very first session, the next day that they were in session, because I was at home here doing some things at the elementary school to help with Mr. Sanderson or Mrs. Peterson and Mr. Jacobs' absence. So right away, I got a text from those guys saying, there's something to this, or this is exciting. I can't wait, the next 2 days to see more about it. So it was pretty interesting, and when you see that kind of buy-in, it gets you excited. So we'd love to make it happen.
So did you reference that there would be visits from folks that are within this organization that supports SPAR, or
Yes.
from the State Department of Education, or maybe
Yeah,
both?
Actually, probably both, yeah. Since the State Department, Jordan and those guys would work with Mr. Kosher, and I never mentioned exactly what their part of this looks like, but certainly for their investment, they're gonna wanna see it, they'll wanna showcase it, they'll wanna be probably asking us to present and do some things on it, which we're happy to do. But for sure, Bar Association will send, somebody's going to be assigned to our school for the pre-service time before school, and then that team they'll send 2 people to our district 4 different times during the year to observe, to coach us, to train us on things that they might see that we need some help with.
Yeah. That's really exciting for
Very.
our district. So, yeah, and I'm so happy that we're in the position to take advantage
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
an opportunity like this.
Kind of similar to that, was it the yellow school bus we read about? The magic school bus? What was that book?
The energy bus?
Yeah, it's kind of what it reminds me of. Thank you.
Yeah, you're right.
Close.
Yeah, the energy bus is a lot like that.
I mean, it's a program built around culture and your kids, so.
Yeah.
All right, anybody have any other discussions or comments? All right, we'll move on to next item K, which is approval of our FY26 budget supplement, which we just made some changes.
Isn't quite as exciting as the last
No.
topic there, but, I'll start with the capital outlay portion of this, because sort of set this up last month that we thought that this was likelihood that we would be bringing another supplement for this. Just so happens that we're looking at a few different large projects this summer, finishing up the middle school roof, taking care of some of the HVAC equipment at the middle school, and also redoing the high school parking lot. Well, all of those are going to happen at the tail end of May and into June, which would be the current year's budget, rather than planning for next year. We figured we would take the opportunity to get those done early rather than waiting until the next budget year starts. So we have to attack that as a budget supplement here versus planning for it out of next year's budget. So that is the majority of the increase there. On the general fund side above that, we just had some more insignificant overruns in a couple different areas there. Audit services, some of our general maintenance and repairs. The elementary building electricity, we've already adjusted this once because of some rate increases. We didn't quite get enough there, so we are looking at another increase of about $7,000 there. And then the other 2 items were being impacted here with the last couple months of our school year by increased fuel costs, so we are having to supplement the budget there for fuel and for our transportation.
Yeah, I see they showed up for the high school parking lot, looks like, huh? They're ready to go?
They plan
Are they
to
kicking the
get-
kids out here sooner than later, or they wait until?
Yeah, that portion of it with the concrete there was a small detail that we wanted to get done a little bit in advance of the asphalting, which should be the Tuesday after after Memorial Day possibly, that they would be coming.
Busy project.
Yeah, and the middle school, the rooftop units came a little early. They're there. They weren't supposed to come till the end of the month, but they're there. So they're in the parking lot taking up some space. But we'd rather be early than late. So we're glad that they're willing to get us done early. So
So for the middle school, does that mean we hope to have some better regulation
Yes.
in our temperature at the
Yep.
middle school?
And so you'll see us talking on next year's budget and building committee that we'll have another group of rooftop units, and then we'll have replaced all the rooftop units at the middle school and their entire new roof all within these next 2 years. So we'll have that entire campus will have all new equipment. So we really hope that we'll have them in a really good spot.
All right, any questions on the supplemental budget? All right, well, that goes into our next tentative capital outlay budget plan, which is then just following about the prelim budget for 26, 27.
I won't mention too many things in here other than the building committee goes through this 3-page document. The $3 million that we spend on capital outlay projects varies from year to year, but what it always has in it every year is the normal maintenance stuff. I want people to realize we never shortchange the district by doing big projects. We just plan well for them. For example, the desks that get replaced, we have a cycle in every building for new desks, new carpet, paint, general maintenance items that we always do, and that's never at risk just because we're doing a $300,000, parking lot project or something like that. So our computer project, our security processes, our curriculum for Mrs. Johnson, all of those folks are basically items that are set in the budget. We just have to change the amounts from year to year. And then we look 1 to 5 years down the road to talk about big projects. So as Mr. Kocher said, this year parking lot, rooftop units, roof at the middle school, all came up, and they all ended up kind of plopping in right here at the end. Next year's projects you'll hear us talk about is concession stand at the football field. We're going to add restrooms to the concession stand, so folks don't have to walk all the way across the football field to go to find the restrooms out there. We've got other things on our 5-year plan that would include the track resurfacing project or the auxiliary gym walkway that you've heard us talk about. Those are all on a piece of paper that we're planning for. We just have to find out when they fit into the budget appropriately, and that's when you'll hear us talk about them, saying we're going to move it up to year 2, or we're moving it back to year 4 because it's just not in the cards. But what I do want you to remember from our discussion is that, there are all the small general items that we see every day, like new lawnmowers or a new sweeper for the elementary or book orders, things like that. Those are in safe, well-established things in our budget that don't get bumped, so.
Thank you. Mr. Kocher, you want to keep talking about the prelim budget for next year?
Yeah, we'll roll right into that. By law, we have to provide preliminary budget in May, and then we will continue the discussion here in June, and then really hammer home a lot of the details of it at the July hearing that we will have to have. Just some really high-level things here. Fund by fund. In our general fund, we do still have our $880,000 opt-out that is in place here again this year, which is a key to our general fund budget. We got a 1.4% state formula increase from the state. Unfortunately, that 1.4% doesn't cover, the increase there doesn't cover enough to cover the decrease in what we're reducing for our student count. Last year, if you remember, we passed a budget of estimate of 1,340 students. We ended up at 1,305 students. This year, we are looking at a budget of 1,280 students is where we are going to estimate that. We hope that we end up higher than that, but that's what we're building our revenue based off of. We also have incorporated in that a $300,000 transfer into the general fund from the capital outlay fund. If you recall from those years that we were spending down ESSER and trying to stay underneath that cap, we paid a lot of expenses out of general fund that could have been paid out of different funds. So this would be looking at sort of reversing that and bringing that back into the general fund from capital outlay. In capital outlay, we are continuing to look at areas that we have either ors, that ones that traditionally had been, or at least for the past few years had been general fund expenses, looking at moving those to capital outlay. One of those examples is the 15% of our bus transportation that we moved over. Another of those items is just brought to us next year through legislation that passed this current year, which is property insurance premiums. That passed, that we are now able to take that property insurance premiums out of capital outlay rather than paying that out of general fund. We think that that makes a lot of sense just because you are really protecting your buildings and your capital assets with that property insurance. So why wouldn't you be able to pay that out of capital outlay? Well, now we can. Couple of different factors went into, Dr. Alvey and I discussed, do we look at moving that way this current year right away? And we were thinking maybe not right off the bat, but a couple of things that we have working for us here. In capital outlay, we do have some obligations for debt that will be falling off after this year. It's $120,000 per year that we will make the final payment of, and then that'll no longer be there. So that frees up some ongoing dollars every year that we can put towards that. The other item there is that our valuation in the district increased by 17.8% in this past year. A lot of that is new growth in the district. Some of that is just looking at the appraised values of existing properties. We are capped based on current legislation, both on the growth and on that the reappraisals. So we are capped pretty much at 6% increase in the capital outlay revenue. However, even at a 6% increase, that's substantial dollars that sort of open up to us. Now that's, even if we had the opportunity to increase by 17%, we likely wouldn't even want to, just because of the tax impact that would have. But it still does allow us to increase our revenue while keeping the levy pretty much steady for that capital outlay fund. For special education, we're actually sitting in a pretty good spot there as well. Couple of different reasons for that. Number one being that even though we're seeing a decrease in our count for our students as a whole, we are actually holding steady with our special education student count. Then we also did get some valuation increases, so we are able to take advantage of that a little bit as well. And then probably the largest factor here is that as we are spending down on what we had been holding as excess reserves, we are actually getting more and more state aid every year, because we had still been sort of penalized by having excess reserves in our special education fund. Well, we've been paying that down every year to the point where now that special education state aid continues to rise. So we are in a pretty good spot with that fund as well. For our debt service fund, really the only thing that I wanted to highlight is this is the debt service payments for our elementary school bond. And through most of the discussion that happened prior to the bond election, it was centered around $1.6 per $1,000 of valuation that would likely be impacted there for a tax increase. Well, based on what our current valuation is, this would actually be 1.11 levy as opposed to the 1.6, which had been advertised quite a bit there. So good news as that continues to have less and less of an impact on each of the taxpayers. For its food service fund, really not a lot to discuss there, because as our student numbers decrease, that just means that we are paying less money to our contractor for that. So it sort of works itself out in the end there. And for our enterprise fund, which is our driver's education and preschool program, driver's ed is pretty much self-sufficient. Our preschool program, we are partnering more with the Boys and Girls Club this year, and that's had a pretty good impact so far on our registrations. We will see how that works this current year as far as the number of students enrolled and how that impacts the finances of that program. So overall, I think we're in a pretty good spot. We'll get more into the weeds on this here in a couple of months. The general fund is an area that the key number there will be the student count, and we'll just have to wait until next fall to see where we go with that.
Great, thank you. Any questions on that prelim budget? All right, moving on then, we have our 2026-27 school district hearing date, time and place. Do we need to read the notice of the hearing?
You don't need to read it exactly, but this would be to set that as July 13th, I believe. I'm trying to find it here. At 6:30, which would be pretty much corresponding to how we've done it the last couple of years. It would just be a half an hour before our reorganization meeting, and it would be here, on the 13th of July.
Sounds great. All right, I think here, if I did it right, we could take a motion for items A through L. Skipping M, right? Because that's just acknowledgement of the hearing. We don't, or the district budget, we don't need a motion on that, is that correct?
You did one last year, I think you.
We did, okay. All right, so we can make it easy then and go through items A through N. Take a motion. I have a first by Mark. I have a second by Ryan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Pose same sign, motion passes. Next up here then, we have your report, Dr. Elby.
Yes, lots of thank yous again as we get near the end of the year. Thanks to all of our staff for a great year. Really, it's winding down fast. Thanks to the seniors. They have practice on Thursday for their final day of the final event, which will be graduation on Saturday. So, thanks to all the supporters who came out for our awards day this last week. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities in this community, and they came. Probably 25 people were on stage offering scholarships to kids because of their grades or their attendance or activities they were in or their future plans. But lots and lots of great accolades for our graduates there. Really want to thank the community because our kids get a really good opportunity to earn scholarships while they're at our school district, which is great. Kind of a special thanks to Rochelle from LSI and Mr. Kosher for working out the details of our summer food service program. At this point, we're planning to be at the middle school starting May 26th, right after Labor Day, or Memorial Day, and go through August 12th, and then there'll be, a couple days off there for July 4th, which will be on the July 3rd Friday, things like that, but those will be posted. So thanks for their work with that. Thanks to the Elementary Student Council and the junior history class for participating in the 250-year celebration and flag raising that was held last week. That was pretty neat to see a giant flag representing South Dakota and America's birthday at 250 over at the gas station on the west side of town, and that's a big flag, and our kids got to be a part of that. That was pretty neat. Thank you to also Representative Casson for a year ago, he was an initial sponsor for House Bill 1092, which was a $500,000 allocation to pay student teachers in the state. Well, we had 17 student teachers this year, and they each got a chance to get some money. It ended up being about $180 a semester. So if you did 2 semesters with us, you got $360. So that was just free money given to them by the state of South Dakota for being an educator in South Dakota, which we appreciated. All of those folks did subbing for us and made money from subbing opportunities throughout the time. But it was just another thing. There was a one-time shot that the state gave. We wrote the grant, got it, and then we were able to pass it directly down to those student teachers. So congratulations to Nathan Vick and Caleb Chasinghawk for being named National Merit Scholar finalists. That's a huge attribute to those 2 gentlemen, and of course the education they got at our school district. I think if you've got that picture, Daniel, you can put up the picture of our welding class that was at the that earned the top honors. There you go. shows some of our kids that we placed specifically, but also our group that went over and did an expo, a welding expo at Yankton, and came back with top honors from the CTE welding exhibition, which was pretty neat. We continue our Attendance Matters campaign. You've heard me talk about it throughout the year. We'll continue into next year with more meetings with families, more engagement with kids, radio advertisements, maybe another commercial with USD, who knows. We'll figure out some things to try to shine a light on this, but just really trying to talk about what's important with education and attendance. And I guess if you would throw up that another picture, there's what really matters, is at the elementary, Mr. Jacobs and Mrs. Peterson awarding the second grade who had the best overall attendance in the elementary with a special SpongeBob day where they could throw water sponges at the principals for their good attendance. So they did different things at the middle, high school, and elementary. This just happened to be one we caught a picture of last week. So thanks to our teachers and our principals for being good sports and really promoting positive attendance messaging to kids. Important dates coming up the last few days of school here. Native American Honor Ceremony is this Wednesday at Prentice Park at 4 o'clock. If you're interested, we have Indian tacos for a community meal afterwards, short program to honor 8th graders and graduating seniors this year, which is always fun. That same evening, seniors get a baccalaureate discussion by the Ministerial Society at the Dakota, at the Pizza Ranch, Dakota, whatever their Event Center, Dakota Event Center. And so that you're welcome to attend that as well. Graduation at the SCSC this Saturday at 1:30. We're excited about that. And of course, the last day of school is coming up next week with the 20th with an early dismissal for kids. And that's the day of our staff celebration. Of course, the board and others are welcome to come out, and we'll honor our retirees and years of service folks, plus our classified employee of the year people, as well as district teacher of the year folks. And then eventually, there'll be 2 staff days then, the 21st and 22nd, for the staff to finish up their year, and we will be done on May 22nd. Just one more kickoff for the Boys and Girls Club. If you haven't purchased your raffle ticket, maybe Rachel, maybe you or Mark, we're going to talk about it. This is a great time to do it, and there's just a few more days left of that raffle, so I'll let you guys finish up that infomercial when you get to that part.
Yeah, continuing on with board reports, there's 4 days left to get that Bronco. So if you have a new driver next year, great new Bronco. But also, again, locally, AMS contributed again to another beautiful shed. So it's out in front of the club right now. From being a previous winner, I do have to tell you, the secret is buying your ticket at the end. So number 1 is buying from Dr. Quayle. That's another ticket winner. He's a big winner. But now that the QR codes, you can just go right online and take that. But the last...
Yep.
So, doing really well for that. But on the Boys and Girls Club, just looking at transitioning over here till to summer. They're closed for a few days before they open up, I believe, on the 26th.
Yep.
I'm kicking off some early childhood, so 3-year-olds. That'll be great. And then, of course, with the partnership with the preschool program. So looking forward to some opportunities there. I know a lot of good chatter about the opportunity to have that child care assistance funding available for them. So hopefully that opens up a lot of opportunities. And then we had finance meeting, but these guys pretty much were up like 7 of your items tonight. So any questions on those? Any other committee meetings or outside?
Well, you pretty much covered everything on the building committee.
Yep.
Yes,
Sorry
yes. He
about
also
that.
took all the money for that.
Saves me the trouble. The Associated School Board of Directors met for their annual meeting, just finalized the year, about 2 weeks ago, and things look good. We had 2 employees that left. We didn't fill those positions. They were tasked with taken over by existing staff until it became a problem, which it did not become a problem. So we have money ahead. The building is fully leased out. So we're in the money.
Staff at the
Associated
Associated
School
School Board
Yep.
group?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, it was 3 days. A lot of it was, to be honest, was rather boring. I got a chance to race across South Dakota so I could have dinner with my nephew and did some laundry and jumped on a plane to North Carolina for the Boys and Girls Club. And that was the fun.
Yep.
Got the shirt to prove it.
Yep.
Wonderful. Anything else?
VPSF met a couple weeks ago. Some fun news. They got a $5,000 grant from the Dakota Hospital Foundation for the Angel Fund Hygiene Corner. Also talked about their tailgate fundraiser for the fall. Tentatively looking at September 25th. I don't think that's locked in, but I think it's at least penciled in.
Homecoming, is it? Yeah.
And also, they plan to provide some funds to sponsor a couple students for the Germany trip this summer who had a financial need. So I was happy to see that too. So we had a nice report from Lenny and Cammie, written report for that.
All right, then. We can now move on then to our financial reports. Item A, funds. Mr. Kosher.
Financial report for the end of the month is in your packet. Don't have a whole lot to highlight, but would be willing to take any questions you might have. If you do pay attention to the end of the month fund balances that are on the bottom of that summary sheet, I will note that some of those, that's the lowest they'll be for a little while because we did already receive our property tax payment here from Clay County, which is one of the more substantial sources of revenue that we have for the year. So those will be quite a bit higher once we close for next month.
Can I ask one more thing? Just to add one more thing, as we're thinking about calendars, in the fall, we typically, when the principals report back sometime in early August, we typically try to have that 4-hour school board retreat. Oh, did you have that down?
I just wrote
Oh, anyway, I'll be sending out a doodle or something that would just ask if you have a preference, but in the past, we've done a Tuesday from 8 till noon at the high school where you guys have an opportunity to meet with the principals. You have a little chat with them about what they're seeing or plan to see in the fall, and then we have our initial school board retreat that day. So I'll be sending some information out about that.
Wonderful. Any questions on the funds? Not, I would take a motion to approve. First by Jacob. Second by Ryan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Post same sign. Motion passes. Next up here is any future agenda items, which that was mine too, but retreat here, so. All right, seeing none, we have 2 upcoming meetings here, June 8th, followed by July 13th. We are in need of an executive session this evening. South Dakota Codified Law -1-25-2-1, which is personnel. I would take a motion to enter executive session here at 8:37. First by Mark. Second by Carol. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Same motion passes. We are now in executive session. Thank you, Daniel.